Hello everyone! Today we are going to present our ESP course design project. It's called Gateway to Honduras, English for Flight Attendants. This project was developed by me, Silvia, my classmates Inti, Jairo, and Keyla, and our main purpose was to design an English course for future flight attendants focuses on the communication skills that they would need in their professional environment. The next one. Okay, I know that at this point you might wondering what is Gateway to Honduras. So it is a 2-month ESP course designed for future flight attendants between 19 and 35 years old within a minimum English level of B1, and the course focuses on aviation, English, and professional communication. And our main goal is to help future flight attendants to communicate effectively and professionally with passengers and crew members. And instead of focuses only on general English, we wanted the course to prepare a student for situations they may actually experience in their jobs, such as assisting passengers, providing information, and communicating with the crew members, as I said before. The next one. Okay, why aviation English? So, or why do flight attendants need special English? Okay, flight attendants need English to communicate with passengers, as I said before, from different countries, and they have to make announcement, give safety instructions, respond to emergencies, and communicate with other crew members. And because of this, we see English as a professional tool, not only as a subject. Okay, and for example, during a flight, the flight attendant needs to communicate clearly when helping a passenger or explaining an important safety procedure. Also, they need more than general vocabulary and grammar. They need to practice English in situations related to their future job. The next one, please. Okay, and here is what does the literature tell us. And before we designing our course, we reviewed the literature about ESP, need analysis, course design, syllabus, the aviation English, and also previous ESP programs or courses for flight attendants. Okay, first of all, we learned that ESP is designed for specific learners and a specific purpose. It focuses on the language learners need in their professional or academic context. And in our case, our context is obviously the aviation. And we also learned that need analysis is an important foundation of ESP course design because it helps us to identify, for example, the learner's need, the target situation, their current abilities, and their lacks, and their as I said, their needs. Okay, and another important ideas was that the course design is a connected process. We need to keep in mind because all of this is interconnected. Okay, the literature also showed the importance of the authentic materials, role play, simulation, and real workplace tasks when preparing future flight attendants. And they also showed that these activities can help us to help students, to practice communication in situations related to their future responsibilities, and such as boarding passengers, making announcements, handling complaints, and responding to emergencies. And finally, we found also that the flight attendants may face challenges, such as using specialized vocabulary, communicating under pressure, and interacting with people from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds. And all of these findings help us to design or to decide which ideas or what our course should look like. The next one, please. Okay, here we have the front research to our course. Okay, as I said before, we reviewed the literature to understand the principle of ESP and aviation English. Then we created an action plan to organize the main aspect of the course, and after that we conducted a needs analysis to understand what our learners actually need, and based on that information we developed our syllabus, selecting the topics that we will teach in the course, the activities and the methodology, the assessment that will be relevant to future flight attendants. And after that, for example, we developed our lesson plan that we presented in the classroom at the university, and our lesson plan focuses on medical emergencies board, and with that, our student practiced emergency vocabulary, listening, problem solving, and role plays based on realistic situations. And in this way, the different parts of our project were connected to the professional needs of future flight attendants. And that's all for me. Now, my classmate will explain you in detail, for example, the syllabus, the action plan, the need analysis, and the materials we used. So, continue. Thank you.
Now, continue with the need analysis. Before explaining how we conduct the need analysis, it is important to understand need analysis means in ESP. And as my classmates mentioned, well, the need analysis is a systematic process to identify learners' needs and inform course designing. In ESP, we can identify different types of needs. First, necessities are what learners need to do in their target situation. Lacks are what they do not or cannot do yet, while wants are what learners want to learn. And finally, learning needs refer to how learners can best learn. For our project, these categories help us to understand what future flight attendants need in order to communicate effectively in their professional context. So that is gonna do that you ask yourself, how did we identify these needs? Well, to do that, in order to do that, we use different sources of organization. First, we use a questionnaire and diagnostic English test. This is to learn about their goals and previous experiences and English proficiency. We also include speaking activities, discussion, short role plays, and these activities help us to observe not only what learners knew, but also how they use the English to communicate. Also, we look at areas such as fluency, pronunciation, confidence, strengths and weaknesses, and their ability to interact in English. So how is the communication between them? This was especially important for our ESP course because future flight attendants need to use English in professional situations, not only to know the grammar or the vocabulary. So together, these sources gave us a broader picture of our learners' language and communication needs. And here I have some screenshots that show that our organization of the information collected during the need analysis. We consider different users involved in the course, including like flight attendants, the course design team, and the instructor. For each group, we identify what information they needed and what decision that information will support. Okay, so then we have what did we find? Well, the information collected show us that our learners need more than general English knowledge. The main focus was on developing practical communication skills for professional situations. In particular, communication with passengers and crew members was important, as well as using professional language and communicating clearly and confidently. The needed analysis also highlight speaking and listening together with pronunciation, aviation vocabulary, and professional communication. And these areas are important because flight attendants need to communicate when assisting passengers, giving information, making announcements, and explaining safety procedures, and responding to different situations during a flight. Therefore, the course needed to focus on realistic professional communication rather than only general vocabulary or grammar. So, in other words, we needed to prepare students to actually use English as a future flight attendants. After developing the initial action plan and conducting the needed analysis, we connect the two to guide the rest of our course design. The action plan established the main objectives, content, activities, materials, and assessment for course. The need analysis then helped us to understand our learners better and make sure that these decisions respond to their language and professional needs. Based on this information, we developed the syllabus, organized around professional situations that future flight attendants might encounter. And finally, these decisions were connected to the lessons and materials, so students could practice English through realistic aviation situations. In this way, the different parts of our course were connected and supported our learners' needs. So here is how we would develop our need analysis, also our action plan, and our syllabus. So now Jairo will explain how these ideas were organized into our syllabus.
Okay, thank you, Inti. Hello, everyone. To directly address those identified needs, we translate our findings into the course syllabus. As you can see on the screen, our program is organized into 8 thematic units arranged chronologically to match a real commercial flight cycle, creating a logical flight path. We have Unit 1 that covers pre-flight boarding, where students practice welcoming passengers and checking boarding pass. Unit 2 focuses on safety demonstration, mastering PA announcement and safety protocol. Unit 3 handles into flight service, focuses on food and beverage ordering and special meal requests. Also, we have Unit 4 that addresses special requests and complaints, teaching conflict resolution with difficult passengers. Unit 5 covers in-flight medical emergencies, learning to assess symptoms and deliver first aid communication. In Unit 6, manages safety procedures and turbulence, securing the cabin during unexpected contingencies. And Unit 7 deals with arrival and disembarkation, coordinating landing announcement and deployment. And finally, Unit 8 warms up with cultural awareness, building professional teamwork, and cross-cultural communication. And the next one. Here, our methodology combines 3 approaches: communicative language teaching, task-based language teaching, and situational learning. To put these theoretical approaches into action, we implement three main practical strategies. First, having simulation role plays, where students pair up to practice routine procedures like boarding and meal service on their communicative language teaching. Second, interactive role plays for complaining management, where students apply de-escalation techniques and task-based problem solving with difficult passengers. And third, simulate emergency role plays, which place students in realistic high-pressure situational scenarios requiring clear and immediately communication. The next one. In this section, we focus on the custom materials developed specifically to make this simulation feel authentic, moving away from general English textbook to use targeted operational tools. We have, for example, task cards, which present real-life cabin scenarios featuring clear roles, communication goals, and essential vocabulary. Also, we have authentic boarding passes containing real flight details like flight numbers, seat assignment, and boarding time for a boarding simulation. We have safety cards acting as a visual reference guide with step-by-step instruction for cabin safety demonstration, medical emergency worksheet providing a structured form for logging passenger symptoms, and coordinating first aid responses, and airport maps and dialogues script, serving as a visual aid and interactive guides for orientation and PA announcement practice. In the classroom, these items act as a real-life tools. Students hold actual boarding passes during simulation, fill out real medical loans during emergency drills, and bridge the gap between classroom theory and actual cabin operation. And the next one, we have to see how our course works in practice, we design a sample lesson on medical emergency on board. This lesson belongs to Unified Health and Medical Issues, and it is designed for intermediate learners and lasts 25 minutes. The lesson follows three main stages. First, during the pre-activity, students predict emergency vocabulary using real objects and pictures, such as glove, a first aid kit, oxygen mask, and AED. Then, during the while activities, students watch a CPR emergency video and complete a listening worksheet. After that, they work in groups to solve medical emergency situations and prepare a short role play. And finally, in the post-activity, students participate in a quick quiz using green and red cards. They also explain why their answers are correct. So this lesson combines listening, speaking, and vocabulary teamwork and problem solving. Most importantly, students practice English through a realistic situation that they may face as a future flight attendant. So my classmate Keyla continue with the next step.
For assessment, we want students to demonstrate what they can do, not only what they do. So our course includes formative assessments throughout the learning process. This involves classwork, role plays, simulations, and feedback, allowing students to practice their English and receive guidance as they progress. We also use performance-based assessment through practical professional tasks. Students are evaluated through activities such as live boarding, meal service, and duty-free sales, medical emergencies, emergency situations on board, and cabin crew recruitment and interviews. And among all these performance-based activity, there is one final task that brings many of these skills together. and it is the final airline simulation project. This task is worth 35% of the final grade and is the main performance of the course. For this project, students work in teams to create their own airlines and then perform a complete flight simulation from boarding to landing. Then during the simulation, they interact with passengers and crew members, make announcements, provide customer service, and respond to unexpected situations. These projects allows students to integrate the form language skill while demonstrating their English communication, professional performance, teamwork, and knowledge of flight procedures. So instead of simply taking a traditional exam about what a flight attendant should do, students actually have to perform those responsibilities. And of course, we have limitations and recommendations, and our course proposal also has these limitations. As you can see in the slide, first, we have a limited time to cover many different topics, and the course includes customer service, announcements, safety procedures, emergencies, teamwork, and job interviews. So it may be difficult to give the same amount of attention to every area. Another limitation is the availability of participants and the partners' institutions, since schedules and activities may need to be adjusted. For this reason, the course also needs to remain flexible during implementation. And based on this limitation, of course, we recommend giving more time to the areas that require greater communication practice, especially speaking, listening, safety procedures, and emergency communications. We also recommend keeping the course flexible, continuing to use authentic and adapted aviation materials, and maintaining practical activities such as I mentioned before, role play, simulations, and group work and problem solving tasks. Regular assessment and feedback can also help identify areas that need more attention. And after considering the course, its assessment, and its possible limitations, we can now summarize what we create throughout the course. So to conclude, we created Gateway to Honduras an ESP course designed for future flight attendant, as I said before, and the course was developed based on their professional and communication needs. So the content is connected to realistic aviation situations rather than focuses only on general English. We combine professional English communication with practical activities, and through this activity, students can develop not only their language skills but also the professional skills that they need to perform their responsibility as cabin crew members. And so this course covers important areas such as passenger service, safety procedures, emergency situations, teamwork, and job interview. And our main goal is to help future flight attendants to communicate effectively, professionally, and confidently in their future workplace. Well, it's all for our group. Thank you very much for your attention. We hope that this video help and explain our complete course for flight attendant. Thank you so much.